Howdy folks, welcome back. So in the upcoming video you are going to see a Miller Wildcat 350D mobile welding unit that I bought at an auction sale for pretty cheap. It was in the inoperable aisle, it wasn't running. There was no history on it. Now, somewhere along the line, I lost the beginning of the footage where I brought it home and kind of went over it and did a walk around and whatnot. So, and I don't know where it went. I'm sure it was on a card somewhere and I probably erased it by accident. This project took me probably 2 months, just off and on, waiting for this, looking for that, working on other things. So in that kerfuffle, I lost the beginning of it. Couldn't find it anywhere. So when I'm videoing these projects that I'm working on, quite often I just turn on the camera and let it run, and then later I edit out what is boring or stupid or just fluff, things that aren't all that interesting. Try and condense it down so that it's not too long. And when you do that, or at least when I do it, quite often there's different memory cards here and there. Somewhere it got lost. So it'll seem like I've jumped way ahead, which I have just because that footage is missing. But watch till the end, it'll make sense to you when you get to the end and you'll see how we made out with that. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright folks, so let's try out this new starter that we got and see if this sucker cracks over. Alright, so the new starter works good. Now, I'm not sure what we should do next here. Maybe we'll give it a little, should we give it a little sniff here? I already checked the oil, the coolant. There is fuel in it. I don't know how good the fuel is. I don't know how long this has been sitting, as I said. So, may take a little bit of doing to get this to go. We'll give it a little sniff and see if it tries to pop off here. Well, that figures, doesn't it? My battery's not very good. That is an old battery that I had out of something else. It still has a little life left in it, but obviously not enough for this. So let's put the charger on that. I'm not sure now if you can hear that noise. I have my hearing aids turned up pretty loud so I can hear it. There is a block heater, circulating block heater on this engine, and I plugged it in. It's not very cold out, I probably don't need it, but I plugged it in just to see if it worked. And you can hear it pumping away there. So probably unplug that, because I don't think we need it today, but I just wanted to see if it was actually functioning or not. The weather's been sort of up and down here. It's been cold one day and warm the next. Today it happens to be fairly warm out, so we shouldn't need that. We will go ahead and unplug it and plug our charger in here just to keep that battery going. It's the only half-decent battery I got left here. Okie dokie. Let's go to 15 amp and give her the beans. Alright, so while I've been waiting for the battery to charge up, I repaired one of the wire that runs to the starter key. Repaired that. So now we can see that we have it's lit up now. I've also got the throttle tied maybe halfway. Alright, there's a little smoke coming out of there, so maybe we need to... There's also a safety shutdown relay here. I think it's supposed to shut it down if it has like low oil pressure or temperature or something. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but I think you're supposed to hold it. So we'll try that as well. Let's give it another sniff here too. It looks like it wants to do something. We don't quite have enough battery here, folks. Heard it chug a little bit there like it wanted to fire, but it's just not whirling over quick enough, I don't think. Well, alright, I threw a bigger battery in this. Big honking battery I got out of my loader tractor. The one I got there I don't think is going to have quite enough beans to get this sucker to go. So let's give this a try now. Should have a better chance at it. Come on, girl. Well, we're making a bit of smoke and we're doing a bit of popping, but she doesn't want to go. Alrighty guys, I just want to verify quickly that we're getting fuel from our lift pump. It's dripping there, it appears that there's fuel there, but I just want to give it a crank and see that the lift pump's actually giving it fuel, because I'm not so sure. Yeah, okay, so that's working okay. Pumping away there. It's got a diaphragm lift pump on the other side, so it'll pulse like that every time the cam hits it. It's a mechanical pump. So, all right, so that's fine. We'll put that back on there, and then we'll go from there. It doesn't appear that I don't think we're getting enough fuel. It seems to want to pop with a bit of ether going in it, but it doesn't want to catch. All right, so now I've disconnected one of these high pressure lines on the business end of the high pressure end of the ejection pump. Let's make sure we got fuel coming out of there. I thought we did, but let's double check this to be sure. I'm going to crank it over, and you holler at me if you see fuel there, because I might not be able to see it. Okay, so we got nada. Okay, so what does that mean? Does that mean that this, I believe there's a solenoid valve up in here somewhere. This wire is supposed to give it voltage to open. I do believe that's how that works, if I'm not mistaken. So, what's going on there? Is that not opening, or what's the story? Because we are not getting any fuel out of that high pressure side. That is a problem. It's not going to start if we don't get that. So, why is that not working? Alright, let's give this another try here. Lock that safety in. You bugger. We're this close. So this was hooked up to here, like so. And they had this chunk of wire. Now my assumption is that is like idle right there. And then they put this on here to rev it up. So they had this solenoid here disconnected. The solenoid that's supposed to, it senses, I guess senses resistance when you start welding, and it kind of revs the engine up for you automatically. And they had that disconnected. There was a blown fuse in there. I don't know about that one yet, but I'm guessing this is just how they dealt with it. So I assume that this is full throttle and that would be idle back there. So I think we're doing the right thing by doing that. I mean, it seems like we're giving it enough fuel. There's plenty of smoke coming out. So what is going on here? Why are we not popping off? I thought this thing should start by now. What am I missing? Am I missing something? Well, that's Piper over there that you hear making all that noise. That's our shop kitty. Was a house cat for a while, but I inherited this cat, and he's now the shop cat. He's not coming over to me just yet. I think he's mad at me for bringing him out here. But anyway, he'll come around. Well, guys, it seems like we're so close, yet so far. It seems like it wants to go, but it just won't carry on its own. It seems to me like we're just not getting enough fuel. Like if we just had a little bit more, she'd fire up. And I don't know why. We've got fuel up to here. I verified that. So my next plan of attack, I decided to go nuclear here and taken all the return lines here are hard piped, which is good in a sense that they'll last a long time. However, there's an awful lot to take apart in order to get these injectors out. So I don't know, do we have stuck injectors? Perhaps. That's a common problem, I think, sometimes when this stuff sits a long time. So anyway, taking all the return lines off. All our high pressure lines are off as well. And let's see if we can't pop these out and make sure that they're free. Make sure we're actually getting a spray of fuel in there. It seems like we may not be. So we're gonna check that out. I'm gonna verify that. That's the only way to do this. I am going to loosen the holding nuts here with the ratchet, because I don't know if these have ever been out. I see paint. It might be hard for you guys to see, but I see paint on the nuts, on the threads. It doesn't look like anyone's had these ever had these out, so I'm scared that if I use a impact, I might snap these studs, and I don't want to do that. I'd rather take a bit of extra time, do it by hand, so you can get a feel for what's going on there a bit better. So far so good. Okay, there we go. Alrighty guys, here's all 4 of our injectors out now. I wouldn't say they were hard to get out, but they weren't real easy either. It was a good thing that they had lots of access to them, because you got to kind of try and pry them straight out. As you can see, they're a bit rusty. Now I do not have a tester for these, a bench tester to put pressure in them and see if they pop and look at what the spray looks like. So I'm thinking about doing something crazy, and I'll show you that in a minute. First I'm gonna tidy these up a bit, and then I'll show you what I'm thinking here. Okay guys, here's my crazy idea. I cleaned up the injectors as good as I could with the wire wheel. Now I've got them all hooked up. I bled the lines. I got them hooked up to their high pressure lines. And I'm going to crank it over. Now it should crank over nice and quick because there's no compression in the engine now because we've got them all sticking out here. And we'll be able to see if each one is popping off and spraying like it should. Now, this is just sort of a redneck way of doing it. It's not telling you that you're getting a perfect spray or the perfect pressure that you should be getting. I don't have that kind of testing equipment here, so we're just going to do it sort of tailgate style here and see what happens. That way we'll know if we're getting any fuel popping out of these. Alright, so hopefully you'll be able to see the spray. I don't know. I don't even know if I'll be able to see it, but let's give it a shot. Well guys, I don't know if you were able to see that or not, but this one here was puking out perfectly, and then those ones caught up. I saw all four of them spraying, so guess we should put them back in and try again. Now, like I said, this is not a great way of testing things. It's giving us a visual that we know we're getting fuel out of all four. I've had injectors that were just basically dribbling fuel out, like little droplets, and it still ran. It ran like crap, mind you, but it still ran. So I think we're going to carry on. I think we're going to put these back in and try again. Alright folks, injectors are back in, the lines are bled. I put all the return lines back on. So, let's see if we made any difference. Somehow I doubt it, but let's just give it a go and see what the hell happens here. Isn't that strange? It seems to be the same damn thing. And it's even there when I let go of the starter, you can see it just about took over on its own. What does that mean? What have I forgotten to do? Surely I've forgotten something. Well guys, as you can see from the smoke, I just got it. It finally popped off and started, and the battery died on the camera. Anyway, it was running, but the oil pressure light stayed on, so as soon as I let this safety relay go, it would stop. Now, I don't know whether that means I have no oil pressure or whether it's just the oil pressure switch is buggered in it. It sounded like it was running fine. So, I'm going to try that again, but I'm going to just jumper that switch and let it run. I don't think we have low oil pressure. I think if we did, we probably would have heard some crazy noises. I didn't hear any, so. Now it turns out I was mistaken. This piece of wire is actually holding it in the idle position. So that may be where I was going wrong, why I was having a bit of trouble getting it to go, because if you let go of that, pulled back, that's actually in the full throttle position. I was wrong. So this solenoid here stays energized to keep it in the idle position until you start welding or start using power, and then it lets go of its to rev it up. So I was wrong about that. I made an assumption and it was incorrect. That might have been part of my issue. So right here is full throttle, you pull back, and that puts you into idle. Anyway, it revs up, it idles. I checked real quick the alternator, it's charging the battery, so that part's working. Went ahead and replaced the return fuel line hose. It's stiff and crispy and crunchy and I don't like it, so I've got that fixed because I believe that was dripping as well. Now I think I'm going to take this top bonnet off here. They can't see in here very well. Like, you can and you can't, but it's hard to see because all these wires are the same color. I'm going to lift this hood off so we can see inside there a little bit better. Brought this machine in here. Piper, my shop cat that you may have seen, sniffing around this pretty heavy duty. And I did blow a bunch of crap out of here, so I have a feeling that there is being little furry friends in here and they love to chew on wires. Why, I don't know, but they do. So something is not working in here. Can't open this up and clear it out and see if we can see anything obvious that's wrong. I don't really know. It's very hard to see inside without taking some of these covers off. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll bring you back when I got something to show you. Alright folks, so here's where we're at so far. This is now probably about a month later. What I ended up doing, there's my brush holders. I think I showed you before we had one broken brush in there. Now I do have new brushes coming for this. I don't know why it's taken so long, but up here in Canada we don't seem to stock anything for anything, which is bloody ridiculous. But anyway, I had to order those and they are coming, but I'm getting a little anxious to try this just to make sure that what's going on, I think is going on, is actually going on. So what I ended up doing for the broken brush, I made one. I took a bigger brush and I ground it down to fit the brush holder. We're going to try that out. Now, what I do believe was the original issue are these little, what I believe are called button capacitors. If you recall, we got one there was broken, and it was like that when I got it. And then there was another one here somewhere. There's like 4 or 5 of these things in a sort of daisy chain. And there was another one broken. So there's 2 of them where the wire was kind of like rotted off or broken off. And I believe in talking to some, luckily for me, I know a lot of people that are a lot smarter than me. So I talked to a few electricians that I know. And they claim that with these things in a daisy chain like that, one being broken will cause an issue. Now, is it all of my issue? Not bloody likely, but anyway, I want to try that. Now, in order to do that, I got to put this all back together, and this kind of sucks. I got to put that ring back around there, and then those pieces there bolt to that ring. It was a lot easier getting it apart than it is going to be going back together. I'm quite sure of that. So I'm going to attempt that. All right. So I've got this shroud and all of this back together. And let me tell you, if you want to hate your life, just go ahead and take one of these apart and try and put it back together. That sucked. Anyway, it is back together, and hopefully you can see. The lighting's not so good. It's kind of hard to see in here, but there's one of those little dime capacitors that's broken.
And then there's one over here that's broken. Now I think I think I broke that putting this back together. Originally, I only ever found this one here. And it's been broken for a while. It's rotten. You can see it. It's corroded and whatever. That one there looks fresh. I'm sure I broke that. So I've got 3 all together, but they go in a chain. There's one down there, one over there. So I have 3 of these to replace, and I've prepped them. I've soaked those nuts in some penetrating oil because I'm sure that is not going to come quietly, but I've got those 3 to replace. And then we will be ready to try this out and see if it worked. I don't know. I have a feeling that this isn't my only problem, but we'll work through it. We'll do this first and see what becomes of it. Alrighty, folks. Well, it's back together, which, believe me, was a struggle. Even getting these button capacitors in where the new ones where they needed to go, even that was a struggle. That bolt just falls inside there, and there's no way to get to the other end. You got to keep it pulled out. I guess there must be a square cut into that. It's like a plastic isolator, isolate it from the case. That was fun. Lots and lots of fun. Anyway, that is back together and ready to go. So I wonder, I'm thinking about starting this up here. Should we be positive here and just go ahead and hook up our cables? We're going to be positive and think that this is actually going to work now. That's not normally something I would do, but I've got a whip set up there. I've got a ground over here someplace that I could hook that to and give this a test. And if I go ahead and hook that up first, is that going to make it good luck? I doubt it. I'm trying to stay positive here because this was a lot of work, but I'm not 100% certain that we've solved our issue. I hope so. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Yeah, let's go ahead and try that. Let's fire this up and see what happens. All right, guys. So I put the battery in that, and we're ready to try and start it. Now I haven't run this. It's probably been a month since I ran it last. We're going to fire it up and see if it's producing any power. It's probably 4 o'clock in the morning. I kind of jumped up out of bed and thought, I need to go on a road trip today and get some supplies. It's going to drive me crazy if I don't try this out before I go. So, I don't know, maybe I'm jinxing myself, but we're going to do it anyway. Let's fire this up. Okay, we bypassed that, so let's try it. Better open the door. Alright, not too bad. That doesn't necessarily mean that it won't weld. One good thing was that engine fired up beauty. The smoke's pretty bad because it still has some pretty old diesel fuel in it. I never did put any fresh stuff in it. It was probably 3/4 full of older stuff. But it seems to be running okay, so we're just going to let it run and get rid of that. But the engine seems to run beauty. So that's cool, but we're not done yet. Let's see what happens here. Let's try it. Alright folks, so back to these brushes again. So it's really hard to see, but this here, this little black plastic block is the brush holder. Brush goes in the end of it, this end of it here. And you cannot get that in and hold those, because of course the brushes are spring loaded, they're trying to pop out on you. I do not know what the trick is to get those in, but I couldn't figure it out. So I ended up putting elastics around it to hold the brushes in, and then I slid the block, or the brush holders and the bracket in, which barely fits, by the way. So now I'm going to, and what I did discover in these blocks, you can't see it from this angle, but they put 3 holes in, so you can actually jump that block ahead slightly if your brushes are worn down. I never noticed that before, but so I jumped them ahead to give it a little bit more contact, hopefully. So now I can hopefully cut those elastics, and then when the slip rings spin around, it should spit that bit of elastic out that's in there, I'm hoping. That was about the only thing I could come up with. It was tricky. These brushes have become a real pain in the ass. Shame on you, Miller, for making it so difficult to do. But anyway, I'm going to hack those off. We'll plug our wires back in, and then we're going to give it another try. Okay guys, now I jumped ahead a little bit here, and I did make some headway. I was waiting for my camera batteries to charge up, and I couldn't help myself. I did manage to get the AC outlet working, so we have power. I ran that heater for a while just to put a bit of a load on it. It doesn't put much of a load on that big diesel motor, but stupid me. I kept checking with my meter at idle, and I was only getting, I don't know, maybe 5, 6, 7 volts. And I don't know why it didn't occur to me, but the automatic idle control I don't believe is working. Well, it's not hooked up anyways. Of course, I've got the plunger undone here. It's just hanging there, and I'm using this manual spring to rev it up. And stupid me, it never occurred to me, like, you know, you plug a grinder into one of these things and turn the grinder on, and the little PC board tells it to rev the engine up. Well, I had a brain fart, I guess, and didn't think of that. But anyway, when I revved it up manually, it worked fine. However, I have next to no welding output. I tried it when it was revved, the engine was revved right up, and all I could get was just the tiniest little spark. Like, it wasn't even enough to melt, even make the rod stick. It was just, you could just see little tiny bits of spark coming out. So now I need to investigate that issue, and I'm wondering, I don't know, but I wonder if we have, like, all these connections are just horrible. Oxidized, corroded, you name it. I would guess that certainly isn't helping our cause. Is that all of our problem? Who knows? But, like, look at that. Look at the rust and oxidation there. I mean, I cleaned a couple. That one there, I cleaned it, but I didn't get the inside of this finger here. So that looks a little tedious. I'm going to have to take each one off and I guess clean them up. I don't know what other choice I have. I guess this thing's, you know, it's been sitting for I don't know how long. Who knows? Was that the original problem? Who knows? What came first, the chicken or the egg? Nobody really knows, because I don't know the history. But I think that in order to get that to work right, That's a place to begin, at least. If you know you have good connections. And of course down here too, the polarity switch where you can switch from positive to negative, it's the same thing. It's just disgustingly oxidized, and I don't think that that's helping our cause. So that's going to be like super tedious. So I'm gonna tear into that, and I'll bring you back when I got something to show you. All right, folks. So as you can see by the carnage here in the shop, we had to go nuclear on this thing. So a couple clips ago, I did get the AC portion to work, which would be that portion there. But I couldn't get really any weld output. I just had enough to scratch the rod. It would make just like spark, but it wasn't even enough to make the rod stick or anything. I cleaned up all the connections because they were horrible. It made it a tiny bit better, and I'm not sure that it did. It might have been just in my head, maybe wishful thinking. So I reached out to a guy. I had disconnected the I disconnected the 3 main windings myself, and just with my ohm meter, which is really not a good way to do it, but that's all I had. And I was getting very poor readings, like from winding to winding. Very, very low resistance. So I reached out to a guy I know who was not interested in being on camera, so we respected his wishes, but he brought his megger over and meggered the windings for me. Because I don't have one of those, and I don't really know how to do it. But essentially you're shooting current into these windings and testing the insulation. That's my understanding of it anyway. And he said these windings are bad. So, which I somewhat suspected. Now I probably should have done that a long while ago. Before I got too deep into it, I was kind of keeping my fingers crossed, and maybe that was dumb of me. I should have maybe gone and done that immediately, but I got to the point where I didn't know what else to do because I just couldn't get any weld output at all. So that may have been the reason this was no good to begin with. Well, that's what he looks like inside. You can see, all that straw in there and grass. Now that's just a little. I already knocked a whole pile of it out. It's all over the floor. All over the floor over there. I guess that's probably common. Mice got inside there and started pissing all over the place and rotted the insulation, and mice love chewing on wiring. I don't know why. I wish they didn't, but they do. So that's likely what's buggered that. He said he sees that a lot. So that kind of sucks, because this motor just runs beautifully. The unit only has 1,700 hours on it. And the hour meter was working before I broke it like an idiot, but it was working when I first got the motor going. It did work. So I don't know if I'm looking at this like number on here, and there's some sort of company name there that I can't make out. But I wonder if this wasn't a rental unit, perhaps. This unit's like early 80s, I believe, from what I could gather. So for something from the early 80s to only have 1,700 hours on it, that's not much. I think possibly that might have been a rental unit that sat a lot. Well, something like that sits a lot, mice get inside it and bugger it. So, I think what I'm going to do, now these windings in here are not that easy to get out. I think there's bits of like square bar here, and then they plug weld it to the outside. There's lots of good copper in there if a fellow felt like cutting that out and taking all that out of there. I don't. I'm not really a scrap guy. That sort of, I mean, that'd be good for some retired guy that had nothing else to do. But for me, I think what I'm going to do is I've taken the rotor out, and the rotor's just sitting over here on the loader because it is super heavy. I think I'm going to throw that part back on because that's part of what supports the engine. We've only got a motor mount there and nothing there. So that bell housing, I guess, was specific to this generator application. So I'm going to throw that back on there so that I can run it if somebody wants to buy a running engine. I can run it for them, and then they can do what they want with it. So I'm going to go ahead and put that back on, and the fuel tank's over there, put that back together, and get this out of my way. Alright guys, this is where this one turned out. I threw the empty generator shell back on just to support the motor on the skid, so I can run it or whatever if someone's interested in a 4-cylinder diesel engine that runs really well. Anyway, I threw the lid back on just so it doesn't get soaking wet, and that's that. So it wasn't a total fail, but it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. Maybe I'll get my money back out of this, I don't know. I didn't pay a lot for the unit, but I did spend, I don't know what that started with, $200 or $230 or something like that. So, I don't know, that remains to be seen, but you can't win them all, so we're going to get this thing out of here, and we're going to move on to something else.